What's up guys, Chris Eckhart here, and today we're talking about cover crops. We've been messing around with cover crops now for 5 or 6 years. I was really hesitant at first to play around with cover crops and just was doubtful that they would work for us. In certain ways there was going to be some traction around cover crops in media and how much people were talking about it. And I started thinking about how we could maybe make cover crops work for us on our operation, so we decided to start trying them. And we were blown away with the results that we had on our operation from the standpoint of once we started messing around with them, understanding why we were going to do the cover crops. I had to get it right in my head why we were going to be doing the cover crops and what we were trying to overcome. So a lot of what we had going on our operation was soil compaction. We're primarily a small grain operation, wheat farm. We do some canola, some barley, some oats, a little bit of hay, but our main staple is wheat. We're a cool season grass area, and wheat's a cool season grass. Makes sense. That's our cash crop. So when we went out in our field and we started trying to address resource concerns of what we had, what were our resource concerns? We've been messing around with biologicals, mycorrhizal fungi, all that kind of stuff, and our organic matter was up there. So we had adequate organic matter, but one of the things we felt was still really holding us back was soil compaction. That is shown in these slate layers here, and I say slate layers because it looks like slate rock, but that's actually dirt that's just so far compacted, whether it's just a buildup of salts in the soil from commercial fertilizers, from heavy traffic over that area. This is just a side profile that we took, took the excavator, dug out a pit, washed it off, and that dirt was just hard as a rock there, in that, down about a foot and a half. So hard, in fact, when we took the soil probe out there in different areas of our field to figure out, maybe just trying to see if this is, a condensed area, we actually broke the soil probe. It said do not exceed. It actually meant that. Turns out that the soil probes do break. So we were able to go out there in the cover crop that we were growing right next to it and dig down with the excavator and see those radish roots go down 4 feet plus in the soil. That's what we could see of the roots, exposed roots. And it was just fascinating. So of course there's a bunch of root hairs and stuff on there too that you can't see, right? But those radishes are going down and pulling up nutrients long ago that were put on that field that wheat plants missed, and able to break up those compaction layers and also put carbon in the soil. It's a big reason why we're not running rippers on our farm today. And you think about it from a standpoint of not only are you burning diesel out there running this ripper through the field, the ripper is not going to go and put carbon in your soil. Maybe just, maybe a little bit that's, coming off of those iron shanks ripping through the soil. But other than that, when these radish roots go and decompose, they're leaving channels in the soil for, moisture to go down through, for nutrients to be able to go down through, for the following crops to be able to follow those root paths down through. And those plants are also pulling up fertilizer. If you could show me a piece of equipment that would go and not only, reduce my compaction, but go out and give me, free carbon out there to go out and spread carbon on my field, and then also put carbon down in the soil, and then also give me free fertilizer, go down and pull up all the fertilizer that, I lost, my dad lost, my grandpa lost out there in the field. That would be fantastic, right? So that was one of the big things that, we were trying to address. So you'll see in our mixes, we'll have radishes and stuff in there. The one thing that you don't see on the mixes, we're going heavy on the radish side of things because compaction is one of our main resource concerns. The other thing that we did with our mixes is we really committed to having at least, 7 species in our mix. We kind of saw that, at least 5 to 7 is a minimum for the amount of species that you had in your mix. Increasing the diversity is critical because in a lot of our fields where, we had, compaction as our resource concern, there was other issues going on in the soil that we couldn't see. You can't see 4 feet down in the soil what's going on. But these other species that are out there are going to do other stuff in the soil that are beneficial to your following cash crop that you have no idea. And the reason I know this is because we have more evenly yielding fields than we've ever had before after having these cover crops out there. Before, we'd have spots of our field that would be yielding really well and then yielding really low And these low yields really hammer the overall average from the high yield. But when we can bring these low areas up, man, does it bring our overall average yield up on that field. So cover crops have been a big thing for us, implementing that on our operation. And not only are we seeing the benefit of the cover crop the following year, we're seeing the benefits of that cover crop 3-4 years down the line. Now, are we going to see them longer than that? Maybe. This is just my personal experience. I'm not reading any of the stuff out of theory. I'm sharing this stuff with you guys from the standpoint of this is my lived experience with cover crops. We get our cover crops from green cover seed. They come pre-inoculated, pre-mixed, and they make it very simple. The cost of my mix costs anywhere from 20 to 30 bucks an acre, depending on what I'm going heavy on. Some seeds are more, some seeds are less. You'll see we don't have any hairy vetch in our mix because we're figuring out nitrogen isn't really a resource concern for us. The nitrogen use efficiency is more of a concern by having all the other micronutrients more balanced in there. And I think that we're getting a lot of that effect from having that cover crop out there, going and mining those other micronutrients out of the soil and depositing them on top. That's just my personal opinion of what I think is going on, but our results, they speak for themselves on that. So I'm not going out and fertilizing anymore after these cover crops. If we are, it's very minimal and it's very prescriptive if we are going out and doing fertilizer after having these cover crops out there. It's some of the best stands that we've seen is after a cover crop, we're typically seeding winter wheat into it and going out the next spring. That's another thing I want to share with you guys, our operation. We're about a 2,000 acre wheat farm up in northeastern Washington. The climate that we deal with here, we're a 100% dry land operation, so no irrigation. The sprinklers here from the sky typically turn off in June, and we don't really count on much moisture carrying us through the middle of June clear through July. We're about a 10 to 14 inch rainfall ideally, but it can vary quite a bit. Our microclimate here is very dry. We typically have very easy harvests in our area because we just don't really count on any rain in August, maybe some in September. So we'll get a few showers and stuff that come through. Most of them pretty much go around us. So anyways, cover crops have been very instrumental in us being able to make our farm more profitable. And not only that, they're fun to grow too. So we've made cover crops work for us. I understand if you're cover crop hesitant, but make sure that you're going out and you're addressing the resource concerns on your farm. That, if you're not just going out to, well, we're going to try cover crops and, I heard that peas make nitrogen, so let's put peas out there. If your main concern is organic matter, like, moisture is a concern in your area, like we just can't grow cover crops because we don't have enough moisture. Well, maybe carbon's your concern. Maybe getting your field's organic matter is up. If you are a wheat grower and moisture's a concern, or you want to build organic matter, maybe instead of planting the shortest variety that has the highest yield, maybe consider planting a little bit lower yielding variety, but that grows taller. What we found on our operation is that maybe the highest yielding variety, from the university standpoint, when we put it on our farm, we found that growing some taller varieties that are better at maybe shading the ground, that have a little bit better dryland characteristics to them, can oftentimes meet or exceed the yield of the highest yielding university's yield variety based on our area. Not only are we getting, the same yield or better, but then we're getting that, cycling of the carbon, getting better carbon input into our soil by growing a taller variety just because it has a taller, stock to it. So that's creating more carbon that we're able to put back in the soil then. Likewise, guys, you'll hear guys say, cover crops are too expensive. I can't afford to take my field out of production for a year. Our experience is showing us that we can't afford not to. It's making our fields more productive long term. And then the year after that we're doing these cover crops, in that cash crop year, not having the fertilizer expense, having better yields, and then having better yields the following years, not dragging rippers through our grounds. These are all things that all costs money. And I look at the cost of what the cover crop costs us versus not doing the cover crop. my experience is showing me that we can't afford not to do these cover crops. These cover crops are doing a lot of work for us. They are the tractor in the ground for us for sure. So anyways, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I want to, give some guys some inspiration maybe to go and try cover crops if they haven't out there, and give them some tips to maybe make the cover crop implementation on their farm, their operation, more successful. If you guys found this video helpful, or you guys have questions or comments, please leave them below. We get back to them as quick as we can. But anyways, if you guys haven't already, like and subscribe if you did find this helpful. And we look forward to bringing you guys more videos in the future. So anyways, thanks for watching.